Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Empowered Podcast. I'm your host, Lewis PL. And just before I get started, I just really wanted to express my deepest gratitude for everyone that's just been liking, subscribing, sharing the podcast, providing, giving me some positive feedback about, what we're talking about, and the fact that it's helping a lot of you listeners out there. Really, really appreciate it. When I get those messages, it just makes all the effort of going through and putting this podcast together worthwhile. So really, really appreciate it. And I know for a fact that the guests that are coming on hearing that would really, really appreciate it as well. My guests today are two amazing women who courageously share their story, their life experiences, and some of the lessons that they've learned along the way. We speak in detail about a lot of key topics, including the importance of self-worth, all the way through to the relationship between the masculine and feminine energies. And there's a lot of topics that I know that a lot of listeners will relate to. So I really enjoyed the conversation, and I know you will too. And without further ado, please welcome my guests, Estelle Ziv and Summer Logan-Rawiri. Welcome to the podcast, you beautiful queens. How are you?
Good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, I'm great. Thank you very much for coming onto the podcast. I know it's not an easy thing, it's very uncomfortable, but yeah, as we say, lean into discomfort and beautiful things can be manifested or can come from that. So thank you very much.
Exciting, nervous.
Yeah,
nervous, but excited. Thank you for having us on.
No worries, no. That's my pleasure. Before we get started, I guess, do you guys want to introduce yourself? Who are you? What do you do? And what are you passionate about?
Sure. So I am Estelle. I am a single mummy to a beautiful 6-year-old. I am a learning designer in terms of my job. And my business and my passion is called She I Am, which is about holistic health for women. It encompasses mind, body and soul. And yeah.
Beautiful. My name is Summer. I am also a single mom to two beautifully energetic boys. I started a business called Mother of Sons, and my passion is crystals. That's helped me massively on my own spiritual healing journey. So I wanted to incorporate that as well as meditation and breath work, predominantly for children, but it's for all walks of life really. So yeah.
Beautiful. And something we touched on before I hit record is just the relationship that you two have. I approached Estelle to come onto the podcast first, and then instantly, I don't know what it was, but I just said, I've got to have Summer on here too.
We're definitely a package deal.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Our relationship of meeting is actually really funny. So up until Summer, I've never had a friendship like hers. I've never met another woman that I've connected with like her. Sisterhood or a connection with a woman looked very different for me because I used to lead a lot with my masculine energy. So the women that I used to attract used to look the relationship just looked different. But we met in the most funniest of ways. Can we tell the story?
Yeah, I know.
Enlighten us. Yeah.
So it was maybe about, a year and a half ago, maybe?
Yeah, probably coming up to 2 years.
Yeah.
Almost.
So maybe about 2 years ago, we used to do network marketing for a health company. And we went to this conference that was in Melbourne. And because we were at this health conference, I was, unfortunately, have a very bad habit of smoking. And I would hide it. And nobody knew that I did that. And then one day when we were out at this bar, it was like in the evening, everyone was mingling. This beautiful girl just charges straight for me while I was sitting in my corner. And she goes, "Hey, you smoke?" And I was like, nope. She's like, "I heard you do. I'm going for one. Do you want to come?" I was like, okay. And then that was it. We were outside maybe for like 40 minutes, an hour the first time. And we just found out that we had so much in common. Like, both single mummies, our story is very similar, our energy's just connected, and then since then we talk all day, every day.
Haven't looked back. Continue to grow, blossom, and our friendship just continues to flourish, and as well as our children too. So it's a beautiful dynamic.
Yeah.
Wow. Because I know, in terms, like generally speaking, like relationships, friendships, like the bond that you have aren't very common out in the in the real world, unfortunately. So I know that you guys have spoken about, quote unquote sisterhood, or in that topic. Would you like to, tap into that, or speak about your own experience?
So when I got asked to speak on it recently, I actually hadn't ever thought about sisterhood, because growing up I was taught at a young age, my coping mechanism with something that happened was to lead from my masculine. So I resonated more with men. My friends growing up were a big group of guys, and there's only maybe a handful of women that have actually been in my life since I was a kid. So when I thought of sisterhood, it's funny, it's definitely the more that you open up in yourself, the more that the world will bring you opportunities. So at the point in time that I met Summer, I had been through a horrible breakup, through a relationship that turned toxic, and had done so much self-work to build my self-worth and build me up again, that I was at a place where I was open to meeting new people, hence why I was at that conference, which usually I wouldn't. So once you, I feel just in terms of sisterhood, you need to be ready in yourself, you need to be open in yourself, and then the universe brings you amazing people in that time.
Definitely. Which is pretty similar to my story as well. I also grew up around boys. I was predominantly a boy myself. I like to identify as a tomboy. I'm not like, I love to get dressed up every now and then, but at the core, I'm pretty just throw on trackies and a hoodie and out the door we go. So grew up around men. Having females around was, I guess, more family, where the women were in my life. And same thing. I also had just gone through a breakup. That was my first trip ever alone. I don't even know how old were we? 20-something. 20-something, and like terrified to even just cross to the next state, and then I think it was that just being open, vulnerable, and it just, I don't know, it just happened. And I think the most beautiful things happen like that because it's spontaneous, you're not expecting it.
Yeah. And I think there's a lot of growing up in terms of sisterhood. My view on it is what you see in the movies and what you see celebrities go through. And think of every single movie, you've got the catty group. You've got the group that bitches and fights and picks on other people. Yeah. That's how women are portrayed in terms of sisterhood. So me growing up, I was sort of like the saviour. The girls that were getting picked on, I would say, oh, come hang out with me. And if their bully came up to them, I'd staunch them straight back. So I took on that sort of role. But our relationship is so different from that. Like Summer and I both lead comfortably from masculine and feminine. There's no expectation on how you turn up. There's no saving one another. If I'm in my shit, she doesn't need to save me. She'll just sit down with me and be like, what's up? Let's talk through it. So it's a totally different dynamic of a relationship.
Because even with you speaking on that, I was the same, but I chose to walk away from all female friendships because of that reason. I did see the drama, the bitchiness, the cattiness, all that kind of stuff, how quickly you could turn on each other and talk badly behind each other's backs. So I avoided that at all costs. So then even opening myself up to you, or the business in general, because the business that we were in at the time were predominantly females, that was challenging. But then out of, 1,000 women, I found one. And that's all I need. I'm content with that,
For real. And I think it is the whole thing of quality over quantity. The other thing too, when you grow up and you're in school, you think, oh, we need to be part of the big group. There needs to be so many girls. But really, if you have an actual connection with them, probably not. And if you actually, go on that deeper level with just even one, probably not. They're probably just around. And I think it's, for us too, I am so satisfied and so content with Summer. And then, outside of friendships, I've got my sister. And in terms of women, my sister, my mum, Summer, and then friends that I've known since I was younger, I'm content. So it's sort of like if you meet new people, there's not the pressure of, oh, we have to be best friends and we have to do this and we have to do that and this is how it has to look like. You're more open and relaxed to let them just be. We can enjoy our time together now. Sure, we're going to be best friends tomorrow. Probably not, but that's okay.
That's beautiful. Yeah, well, man, like I was saying, excuse me, apologies. Like I was saying, I could just sense that there was such a deep connection between you two, and not only through business, but just the amount of inner work that you've both done together as well. And yeah, almost walking the same path as well in terms of, you know, being a single mom and just the journeys and the adversity that you've had to go through is very relatable. So that's amazing. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. That's huge. I also, in that, I did hear a lot about masculine and feminine energy. If you both wanted to touch on what that is, and how you know, how can one identify if they're leading from one or the other?
Okay. So there's many variants of the definition, but quite simply, my understanding is, in the human form, no matter if you're male or female, you have the balance, which is called your duality of masculine and feminine energy. Your masculine energy is your action or doing, it's your giving, and your feminine energy is your receiving, caring, nurturing. Everybody has the balance of both, and living in sort of an optimal sense of duality, or an optimal way, is making sure that both sides are healed and both sides are balanced. So if you think of a really typical masculine person, it's not just men, I was a very masculine person. They are very dominant, very protective, very powered, very action, goal orientated, that sort of side. And if you think of a very, very feminine person, they're very calm, nurturing, caring, receiving, sits back and lets things just happen. So I think society put a lot of men have to be masculine and women have to be feminine. So people get confused, because you might have a woman that is, you know, very dominant, very power driven, very getting goals and things like that, and then they might not identify as being a woman because they're not feminine.
Well, you even see it in, you know, everyday life. If a woman comes forward and she is goal driven and, you know, she's out there doing her thing, she's either labelled as a bitch or, you know, stubborn, all those types of things. But if a man was to do that, like, all power to them. And then vice versa, if a woman was to be feminine, beautiful, she is elegant, she is soft, loving. If a male was to, you would question their sexuality, or maybe he's a little bit gay, or, you know. So it's just, it's funny how society has put that on us, yet we all are a balance of masculine and feminine energy.
And there's the healed feminine, or I hate the word healed because it never stops, your healing journey, but
absolutely.
There's the healed feminine and the wounded feminine, same with masculine. So that's where you can identify if you have, and you can do a Google search, there's heaps of cool pictures, but if you, for instance, as a man, if you are more wounded masculine, then you're going to be more toxic, where you're controlling. So you're trying to control the outcome rather than just, you know, letting things be, that you're giving and letting whatever happens happen. So if you're wounded masculine, you're more toxic, you're more controlling the outcome, you're more trying to keep things close to you, whether that's people sometimes, you're trying to make sure that they're close to you, they need you. And same with the wounded feminine, you know, there's traits in there that everyone can identify with. But I think it's so important on anyone's journey to take a look at both sides, both wounded and healed on both sides, and see where you are and see what you can do to, you know, better yourself in that aspect, because there's a lot of healing that happens in the feminine. Healing is feminine. So once you end up turning to that vulnerable state of not controlling the outcome, where you are receiving what you're meant to receive from whoever you believe in, the universe, God, whoever it is, but when you're open to receiving and you're open to being calm and nurturing and caring and loving on yourself, that's where healing happens.
And I think it's a beautiful thing between our friendship, because this is one thing that Estelle has taught me. Growing up, I was raised and surrounded predominantly by wounded masculine figures. And I was a little petite feminine, operating from my feminine energy, which then growing up, I realized that I was actually leading from wounded feminine energy. That's seeking validation, approval, you know, everything that's external. Begging, you know, you don't have that self-worth. And then meeting Estelle and going on our journey together, because she has obviously said she's led from predominantly her masculine energy, and watching her go on her journey in healing that, it's allowed me to see that side of the beautiful masculine energy rather than the toxic side. And then she paves the pathway and enables me to then tap into my masculine. And so that's what I'm now starting to do, which is speak my truth and stand up for myself, because when I was leading from my wounded feminine energy, I lost my voice. I didn't have a voice. I was silenced, told to shut up, sit down, you're too much, things like that. So you've taught me how to do that. Yeah.
Thanks, Boo.
That's okay.
Man, so the common theme is, your awareness. I mean, you two beautiful queens, your awareness is raised so high that you can even now look back into your past and be like, oh wow, and connect the piece, connect the dots, put the pieces of puzzle together, and be like, oh, that's the way I was, and that's the reason why that played out that way. And I guess for someone that is still seeking that awareness, or consciously trying to figure out why things are happening to them, or I mean, there's so many different reasons why, but in your own experience, what could you say to that person?
So I'd say there's two things. The first thing is that sentence right there, seeking awareness. Seeking means you're looking for something external, and you're meaning that you've already preconceived an outcome of what that looks like, and you're trying to find that. That can only lead to disappointment. The other thing is, I think the whole topic of what a spiritual journey is and what spiritual or self-development is. If you look at the definition of being spiritual, it's just finding your soul, understanding your soul. So if you think about from when you're a kid, people feel like they're so lost away from something. But when you're a kid, children are the most soulful beings. They say what they like, say what they don't like. If something of curiosity catches their attention, they go to that. They're learning their soul. They're learning themselves. And what happens is, along the way, you're going to get situations that are probably really hard, and you're going to get put into environments that are going to shake you up. But still, you're not detached from your soul. You're still learning how your soul acts in those situations. What is the outcome, or, those sorts of things. So spiritual journey isn't something of doing. It's just a way of being. It's just being open enough for yourself to show itself and to find the answers within yourself. That's what I feel.
I think also a massive one, especially that showed up in my stories, be honest with yourself. Like, actually get real with yourself, and then the answers, they will just come. Maybe not straight away, maybe not as quick as you want them to, but just be open to receiving signs, little messages. Even, I don't know, for me it's like having dreams. The dream itself might be a little bit like, oh, what the hell was that? But if you dig a little bit deeper, you find those little hidden gems.
And I think it's that whole thing of leading curiously with love.
Yeah.
Always. If you want to go on this journey, or you're starting on this journey, or you're confused, find what sets your soul on fire and chase that. Do more of it. We're here on this earth to have fun. And it is almost like a game. It's a hard game, but it's to be, fun and play. So play with it. What you think sets your soul on fire, you start leaning into that more curiously. You start doing that every day, and you'll start to find your sense of being, who you are, what you enjoy.
Yeah, 100%. And I guess based on my own experience, and I relate 100% to you, Summer, in terms of being honest with yourself and removing those masks, and then, making space for love and for new things and beauty. And I think, it all starts, and we all know that it all starts with self, and not looking externally. So 100% resonate with everything that you both said. So,
I think it's so as well learning that your body speaks emotion and your brain is the thing that does the thoughts, right? So your body only speaks present and it only speaks emotion. As you go through this life and all the things that you've been through, we are built to survive. So you're built to create thoughts that are going to make you survive, right? That's in your head, not in your body. So in terms of masks, it's so common that once you've gone through something, your brain will then tell yourself, oh, actually, nah, that backfired, not going to survive that situation next time. This is how we're going to act moving forward. So it's identifying where those masks actually came from. What made you put that on in the first place? Why did you think that it was a survival thing to wear them? And only until you can identify something, which is where the awareness comes from, when you can identify maybe the time, place or situation, then you can begin to change it. And then you can begin to see if it serves you moving forward or not.
It's all about unlearning
Yeah,
to relearn. Yeah.
massively.
Yeah, but I guess, yeah, without those difficulties or lessons, you wouldn't have turned out to be the person you are. So, yeah, regardless of the difficulty, the adversity, the challenge, the obstacle, I think you always have to, be grateful for it, because a lot of people, they fall into that victim mentality, instead of owning it and just being like, okay, that's what happened, but it's made me into a better person,
Absolutely.
So,
And
cool.
even with the spiritual journey, you know how people think, oh, it's all butterflies and numerology and meditation and kumbaya, but it is through the darkness and those challenges that you find your light. So you have to go through it.
Something that Summer and I both identify with, and we both bond over, I guess, is there's this new thing of, I don't know if it's new, but it's popular at the moment, of a light worker. You're on a spiritual journey, you're a light worker. Summer and myself don't identify with light. We feel dark. We have a lot of things that we've gone through. We have a lot of different aspects of ourselves that are very dark. And it's more so being comfortable with that knowing that through the darkness is where your light will shine. It's more so an outcome, not an intention of, I'm going to shine my light. It's more so you doing the work in the dark, you doing the work, at home when you're by yourself, when nobody's looking, however that looks for you, and then your light will shine brighter.
Naturally. Yeah.
And I think we were laughing, we were saying that also on this spiritual journey with the whole meditation thing, like you can find somebody that listens to screamo music, and if they're so aligned with their soul or who they know who that is, they could be so much more spiritual or, further along their journey than somebody that does meditation and yoga and goes for naked bushwalks or whatever. Do you know what I mean? Yeah.
Shadow work, I assume that's what you're talking about.
Yeah.
For the listeners, I guess, shadow work is going to those dark places and facing that trauma. And for myself, and it was only brought to my awareness just recently that just the importance of shadow work and facing those moving through the emotion, feeling the emotion, because if you don't, you suppress it, and that's what a lot of people do, especially men. Like that was me once upon a time, is suppress. The same story. Oh, okay, that's what that worked for me back. When that happened, and suppress, and then atomic bomb explosion when it all comes out.
Can't hold it anymore.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, massively.
Was there any, I guess, practical ways of, doing shadow work, or is it that you'd know of, or?
So things that help me in terms of, I don't think you can actively seek out to do shadow work. I think you have to be in a state of being where you are operating from that place of being open and vulnerable and allowing it to come up. You can't force it to come up. But things that have helped me is, the common things like journaling. If you don't like journaling, then you can do like a voice recorder or a video recording. The other thing is doing mirror work, sitting in front of the mirror. So when you have a quiet moment, sit in front of the mirror and have a conversation with yourself. How are you really feeling? How do we feel about this? And I think
That's my favourite one.
Oh, it's so hard.
I talk to myself all day, every day, like a mad woman.
For real.
But it helps.
Yeah.
It really does. Because at the end of the day, you got you. Only you know what you're going through and how you're feeling. So who better to talk to than yourself?
For real.
Yeah.
And I think it's just finding those moments. Put yourself first. If you make time for yourself, you're going to show up. Like just in the morning, whether it is getting up an hour before your kids or your family, before you start putting into anybody else, allow that time for yourself and do what, it doesn't have to even just be, meditation or anything. Make yourself a sacred cup of tea. If you're honoring yourself, pouring the tea and going, this is for me, I've made this for me, and you're there sipping it, enjoying it without interruption, that is giving back self-love, and it's allowing yourself to be open and see what comes up and pouring in your cup and all of those.
Wow. So there was a lot of nuggets in there for you listeners and people watching. The common theme, that we get on this podcast is the importance of self-love and filling up your cup, because you can't
So important.
you can't do it from an empty cup, and that's what we see out in the world. You know, everyone's too busy being busy and forgetting to look after themselves. So no, thank you for that. So I'm actually going to try that, a sacred cup of tea. That sounds or sacred cup of coffee. Like it sounds nice.
Make everything you do
life
during your
sacred.
day. Make it all sacred.
Sacred piece of cake.
Something that I even tell the girls in the course that I do, the 6-week course, is when you're in the shower, actually spend time, not in a bad way, but touching your body. Be still and actually have the intention of pouring into yourself. Touch your head, say thank you, I love you. Touch your shoulders, thank you, I love you. Give yourself a hug. Spend time on yourself, giving yourself that self-touch, because we crave affection and we crave hugs from everybody else. When was the last time you hugged yourself? When was the last time you gave that to yourself first? And I think there's a whole society thing of, the busy person, almost like the superhero that's everywhere and oh, they're so amazing. But I'm sure people can reflect on their lives when they've had somebody that was so busy, and you can see that they're operating from a place of empty, that when they spend time with you, they're not actually spending time with you. So even though they think that they're, giving to you and, I'm going to sit down and talk to you, but
Well,
really,
they're physically present,
Physically
not
present.
mentally
but they're
or
not
emotionally.
there.
Yeah.
Like, so you think you're doing a good thing by giving to others before you give to yourself, but really the quality of the person of who you're showing up as is being of a disservice to them and a disservice to you.
Ooh.
Let that sink in for you listeners.
Speak, girl.
Yeah, that's huge. A lot of mic drops for myself too. So let's talk about your journeys as single mums. I was raised by my mother for a large portion of my life. She was a single mum, and God bless my stepdad who came in and took us children in as his own. It's just the love that I've got for him. But I just know. I've always had a special, I would say, place in my heart for single mums, especially because I just know that the adversity that you've got to go through every day, just to keep your children happy and yourself happy as well. So, look, there's no specific question about it. I guess what did you want to share on that topic? Your own.
Let me go. For me, obviously, when you find out that you're pregnant and you're going on this journey, you don't think that you're going to go at it alone. But then obviously circumstances changes and you do. I think even though in the beginning I was partnered, but I still did what I had to do as a mum. So regardless of whether I was partnered or whether I'm labelled as single, I'm still doing what a mother would do. I necessarily don't look at myself as a single parent, just because I've always had enormous amounts of support around me, especially by my parents. So we have a saying, or it's a famous saying anyway, but it takes a village to raise a child, which is what we believe. I couldn't do it on my own, and I haven't done it on my own. I've never actually been on my own and experienced motherhood as a single parent. That's my take. But
I think the single mother, because we've even discussed this in terms of, do you identify as a single mother? Because if you were to look at, similar to Summer, if you were to look at me when I was with my daughter's dad and me now, I'm still the same mother. So in terms of mothering, how I show up for my daughter, the things that I did for her and do for her, it's still the same that I was in there. So the only difference is that at nighttime when she goes to sleep, I'm by myself. You don't have somebody there. I think it's also a beautiful, single mothers, every mother has a beautiful bond with their child, but single mothers don't have a buffer. You don't have somebody to hide behind. So, for instance, with me and my daughter, she sees me in my shit because I don't have somebody to say, oh, babe, can you just take over for a minute? I just need a break. No, she gets everything. And I think that the experience that we both do with our children, that our children are becoming so aware, like they're, all three of them are amazing, but is because we don't hide, we just explain. So if I'm with her and I'm having a moment or whatever it is, I'll explain to her, I'm having a moment because of this, and this is what I'm going to do to help myself. Sometimes she'll sit and join me. Like if I want a moment to go and sit and take deep breaths, then she'll go, okay, and just plonk herself next to me and watch what I do and do it. And then it encourages.
But in like admiration, like she will like look at her like, wow.
I want to do that too. But now,
it's beautiful.
But by doing that, because we don't have the buffer, we're actually giving them tools to cope with their little lives. So I know both of our children scream into pillows when they're angry. We, if you need a minute and you want to get it out, go scream into your pillow, go punch your bed, go, have a moment to yourself. That's fine. But yeah, it's definitely a beautiful process. I think that the bond with single mothers and children are extremely strong, very strong, because it's just you two. It's like I always explain to my daughter that we're a team. So if we don't get along in the house or something's not working, I would say, Mia, are you on my team? I can't do it by myself. Are you on my team? And she'd be like, okay, all right, let's go.
I like that one. I'm going to use that one.
Yeah, and they've all started, I think it's something that you and Mia started, calling like a reset. If you're all feeling a bit overwhelmed or there's a bit chaos or you're not getting on, if like one of you are looking a little bit, I don't know, flustered, it's just like pause, reset, start your day again, start this conversation over again, restart.
Because we definitely, that came from a lesson of Mia would say, I've had a bad day. And so was it a bad day? Because she'd tell me something good that happened, but then she'd tell me something sad. I'm like, was it a bad day or a bad moment? I had a bad moment. Okay, all right, but the day was good. And then that then turned into in the morning, if we wake up, as women do, little women too, you wake up on the wrong side of the bed sometimes, and we start, she hates rushing. So if we start rushing and start in this fluster, she'd get very overwhelmed and go to school overwhelmed. So at any point in time, she can choose to do a reset, which means we go back into our bedrooms, open the door again and start again. Good morning, you okay? Yeah, okay, let's go again. Or even a feeling pause. If Mia's feeling very overwhelmed, she was going through a stage where she would retreat and be quiet and not know how to talk about it. So I said to her that at any point in time she can call a feeling pause where I stop, give her my full attention as long as it takes and see what comes up. And we've even done it driving once. She's had a moment, called a feeling pause. We've pulled over the side of the road, had a discussion. We're all good. Okay, hug it out. Let's go.
Man, it's so, I love the tools that you're, like just how to deal with, kids that don't know how to control their, or, younger kids generally don't know how to control their emotions as well as we do. Sometimes we don't. But no, thanks. I've got a few extra tools.
Yeah,
in
I think
my
it's
tool
because
belt.
you have no choice but to play both roles.
Yeah.
For real.
So you have to find that balance between being motherly and friendly and loving, but then I guess what a father, the masculine energy would bring in is that the rules, the discipline, the
doing and
the boundaries and things like that. So it's finding that.
It's definitely a constant balance. And one.
So for my thing, before I lose my train of thought. Because I have two children who are completely different, it's then another layer on top of that, meeting them where they are. And they're both, obviously, my son, Caden, is 9, and my youngest son, Corbin, is 5. So the age different also. But that's a challenge in its own. But it's it's a beautiful one.
But you do so well with them. Summer, she does breathwork with her kids. She does the daily affirmations. She's probably inspired the affirmation cards. And she definitely knows how to meet them at their level. So if you watch the dynamic between Summer and her boys, and if it's the older one, she'll give him a minute or let him be on his own to process. If it's the younger one, she's there ready, giving him a hug and giving him that attention, not to do it by himself. So Summer being able to navigate two very different personalities and meet them where they're at is such a beautiful process to see.
And they're completely opposite. One's like, not affection, don't touch me, don't comfort me, let me be on my own, I'll go and kick and scream in the room and into a pillow. And then the other one's all suki la la mummy, I want to cuddle. So it's like, and then sometimes I want to like swap, I'm like, but I just want to cuddle my big babe. And he's like, nah. Okay.
What I love hearing is the work that you both have, been doing and now you're instilling that into your own children. And one, cultivating a beautiful relationship with them, but now raising them to be strong, independent adults or young adults. And I think that's the ultimate goal of, I mean, that's one of the, I would say, one of the benefits of you know, finding self and putting self first is, you do start showing up the best for everyone else, and they start shining just as much as you are. So big shout out to you guys, and you know, huge credit. Like that's amazing, and that's something that I would say, you know, all parents strive to do is one, to break those cycles, and you know, heal trauma, heal their own trauma, and you know, at the same time as, you know, uplift their children. So inspiring.
I think there's so much power when you realize that, in terms of your awareness, or when you go on a journey to identify the things that, you know, maybe the things that you want to adjust or you want to do better at, where you realize and accept that as an adult you have the accountability of choice, no matter what you've been through.
Yes.
So even if people have done wrong by you in that moment they're accountable. But every single day that you have chosen not to heal, or not to revisit, or not to better yourself from it, is on you, nobody else.
Yeah.
So once you realize the power of choice that you have, that you can literally create and cultivate the person that you want to be every single day, no matter what that looks like, then you start to realize that, you know, generational trauma that's been passed down, or the ways that our parents maybe have done things to us that we wouldn't agree with, you have the choice to change that for your kids and give them a leg up in life.
Definitely.
Awareness. Yeah. No excuses when you have the awareness, 100%.
But through that, even the awareness, you know, I speak for myself, but I've been disconnected from my children. You know, there's times where I haven't been a great mum or a loving mum and things like that, but it's through that, you know, through the ugly times that you also learn, and makes you kind of like opens your eyes to that's not who you want to be and how you want to be.
But it's only because you're aware that you caught that.
Yeah. Now.
You know, and
maybe not once upon a time.
Yeah, and we're not robots. Like, we're not going to get it right 100% of the time.
We're only human.
And we're only human. And you know, life would be so shit if we were perfect. You know, we would never have any challenges, no problems. But life would be so fucking boring if we didn't.
But it's even that whole perspective of what is perfect. You know, if you look at on this earth, every single person is completely different from somebody else. There's no two people alike, even twins, right? So what's perfection? How can you make one perfect when everybody is different?
Yeah.
Everybody is here for a different purpose. Everybody has different. So I think the striving for perfect is unattainable, because perfect doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Such a subjective thing.
Yeah. So I think that's the awareness and journey of self, is accepting yourself in your shit and just striving to be better the next day.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Yeah. And that's a common misconception, is when you are doing the inner work that you are perfect, but in actual fact,
what is perfect?
Yeah. What is perfect? And you're like, then you start poking holes at yourself, you're like, because of the awareness, and then it's like a bloody cycle. It's just like keeps going around and around and around, and But I think that's when we just have to remember why we're doing the work, and then that just stops that cycle. So yeah, cool. I want to touch on your businesses, and I know you guys have something special coming up, or I mean, you don't have to announce it here, but
exclusive.
Empowered podcast exclusive. You're coming with the ASMR 6-week course now.
Secret ASMR.
I don't even know how that's a thing.
The crunch I can do, anything else I can't do. So the business. So I have She I Am. So She I Am came to me as a download. Are you aware of downloads?
Do you want to go into it?
Yeah.
I might be, but it might be different terminology. Yeah, no. So go for it.
Okay, so downloads is like, for me, is once you, in terms of your own being, you only have a certain capacity to how much you can hold, right? Mm-hmm. So once you start clearing things that are old and no longer serve you, you leave yourself open for where you're meant to go in the future. Yep. So when I started doing all my work and clearing some really heavy things that I've been holding on for a long time, I had this one day where I was just sitting there and I had this vision, and clear as day, as if I was watching a TV, about this 6-week course. It started as that. So I wrote it out and then just left it there. I didn't know what to do with it. And slowly but surely, for me, that fleshed out into doing a 6-week course, which is to heal and release the divine feminine energy, which goes through different layers of shit that you can be carrying so that you free yourself from it. So my business has that, and then went into going to mind, body and soul healing for women. So we've got the body coming out. That's going to be a 6-week course called Heal, and that is about holistic health. So going back to our roots of natural eating, all of those sorts of things of how to heal the physical body. And then I do one-on-one intuitive coaching, which is I tap into your energy, do a card pull, and then we'll go as deep as you allow me in the call, and I'll be stuck with you for a week to improve something in you for a week.
Yeah.
And then we have Intuitive Collective, but we'll explain that after your business.
That's right. So mine was quite similar. Also had what you call download, vision, message, whatever you like to label it as. And that came after I had just lost my job during COVID. And I have, ever since I could work, always worked in line of work that like customer service, you know, being there for other people, and I want to be of service to other people. That's something that is on my heart and I love to do, but the line of work that I was in was just never rewarding. And I realized going on this spiritual journey that it's something that I'm extremely passionate about and sets my heart on fire and lights my soul. And I was just like, let's do it. Let's open up a crystal store. They've helped my journey along this way. I'm sure that it could help so many other people as well. So this year I opened up my own online crystal store. And then from that, working with my children, doing positive affirmations and things like that, we then came up together with a deck. So you go through the alphabet, and it's nurturing nature at the same time, you know, how you feel, what emotions you feel in nature, how they calm you, you know, for example, like walking barefoot on the ground, that's out in nature, you know, on grass or whatever it may be, that's grounding. And then I worked with my kids and their emotions, as well as, you know, Estelle and her daughter, and we came up with a deck, and I just released that. Yeah, other than that, it's just,
nice.
just setting an example. I don't know, just doing what I do with them daily and just putting that out there, just sharing it.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
And I think that was the most amazing thing about our businesses, is that once you realize the things that you are passionate about, you realize the things that you are skilled in. So for me, for the course, I work as a learning designer, and for Summer, in terms of her knowledge of crystals and how they help, that's been in her since she was a kid. So once you realize your passion and your skill and how to be of service to others, and you mix them together, then you can create a powerful, fulfilling business. We then have our new venture, which is called the Intuitive Collective. So that came about as I was just thinking that there's not really many spaces that are like an umbrella. It's like a hub where you can go and get, so many different resources and so many different people and knowledgeable, things in the one space. So the Intuitive Collective is a umbrella for like-minded individuals. So we've got She I Am is part of Intuitive Collective, Mother of Sons is part of Intuitive Collective, and the dream of that eventually is to have, we've designed it out, we talk about it way too much, is to have like a whole factory warehouse with different spaces.
Yeah.
So to have like Mother of Sons crystal shop, to have like, health food shops, a cafe, to have a studio space for yoga, breathworks, meditation, things like that.
Yeah, it's just like one massive studio.
One-stop shop where you can just be.
Yeah.
But that's the goal. So far what we have been doing as that joint endeavour is we hold breathwork sessions. So we've done a couple of breathwork sessions. We've done a couple of morning meditation and breathwork. So that will be like once a month. And then our podcast.
Yeah.
It's not as professional as this, guys. Don't expect
Hey, this is the most unprofessional podcast ever.
expect anything.
This is professional.
Ours is like,
get up.
like camera on a little selfie stand with the light, like $30 from eBay.
It was more of because we talk 24/7
Yeah.
and no topic or anything is off limits. We go deep, we go light, we do it all. And it was that our podcast idea was just to bring our FaceTime chats to life, really. And it's just tapping into our own minds and just putting it out there.
Yeah. I mean, the funny thing is, like, when we all get together, whether it's, us three or people that we know, in our circle of friends, we always speak like this anyway.
Yeah.
We always have these DNMs, or if you want to call them DNMs, or I don't know, spiritual and meaningful. Like, we always talk this way. But the fact is, there's a lot of people out there that are hurting or just need to hear the conversations. I just wish that there were a lot of people that I knew that were just flies on the wall.
Yeah.
When we're speaking.
Yeah.
Because I just know that it can help a lot of people. So for you to to bring your collective businesses together, and it's almost like an awesome place for spiritual adults to go to. It's like I just think that's amazing. So when do you expect to what's the goal? You're gonna commit?
Well,
so December the 21st we're manifesting.
Yeah, December 20. Have you heard of December 21st?
Hey, drop that in there. Okay, what's so significant about December 21st?
So December 21st, I'm no expert in this, but from what I've looked it up, so December 21st is everybody talks about the collective awakening of Earth, basically. People having that level of awareness or being curious and not continuing to be sheep and just do what you do because you've been told, but to ask questions. So December 21st is meant to be a very high vibrational energetic day where the vibrations of the earth is lifted. So that could mean people can, go deeper than what they've been. They can go higher than what they've been. What we've found in our circles is coming up to December 21st, we've all been going through a lot of shit. A lot of things that you've tried to maybe hide or not work through is all coming up. So the last maybe 2 weeks have been fun with that. But December 21st is also a huge day for manifestation. So in terms of this vibrations, I think something to do with the stars or the planets or whatever. It's the first time
I think it's open for interpretation, really.
It's like the first time in 200 years that this thing is happening.
Okay.
And it's a significant day in terms of manifestations. Once every 20 years that, the stars are right for you to manifest what you want.
Okay, so 21st of December,
21st
you'll be
of December.
manifesting the fuck out of this.
Absolutely.
We've booked in our healer. We're going to see our healer.
It was actually a mutual lady that we see, if you want to call her a healer.
Yeah.
She actually spoke this day into us and said it was an important one and to jump on board with it. But for anyone that is wanting to manifest, I think something important that you journal about it or however you want to go about it, but to write what you want and then how that will make you feel, even in your current situation, how you feel about it, or how that will make you feel when you have obtained that, whatever, if it's your career, your relationship, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
The how, however, is up to the universe.
Yeah.
However that comes into play, that's out of your control.
Yeah, but the what, even in the feeling, because in even if we're going backwards and talking about shadow work and all that sort of stuff, but in this earth, like attracts like. So if you've got things that you're not working on and you're carrying and it's in your subconscious, you're going to keep reliving that situation. Just as much as if you, want to have whatever it may be, a house or the job or the family or whatever it may look like, to actually embody that feeling. Because it's not a thing of manifestation isn't, when it comes, you'll feel that way. It's about embodying the feeling first, starting from today, and then like will attract like.
Yeah.
That stuff will then come. But yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I've been reading into a lot of, in terms of the concept of vibrations, and just if you're in a higher vibrational, I would say, I don't know how to explain it. I'm pretty shit at explaining things, but just being in a high vibrational state, given that everything is connected molecularly, if you are of a high vibrational state, you will attract high vibrational things or people. That speaks volumes to me, and most definitely December 21st, you heard it here first, everyone. Awesome. Okay. What's like a lesson that actually, biggest lesson of 2020 for you both, would you say? Or
I think for me, there's so many. There's so many. I think the two is, first of all, to stop and pause.
Yeah,
massively. I'm someone that runs 1,000,000 miles an hour all the time, doing work and businesses and single mummy and all that sort of stuff. So this year was a really good awakening to stop and to find your balance again. And I think the next one is to always put yourself first. No matter what you're going through, like you do need to wake up in the morning and selfishly put yourself first, so that you can be there for loved ones, especially collectively in a time of like a pandemic.
Wow.
Or pandemic,
Yeah.
depending on how you want to think about it.
That's for another podcast. That's for another episode. Watch the space. I got some people coming to talk about that. But like, yeah, I think for myself, yes, having a pause. Hence, I took like a bit of a hiatus from June to, I'd say, December on this podcast, because being a generator myself, just having to always be productive, always having to do things. Man, if you see me at home, mate, like I'm just always up, like trying to do something. I'm like vacuuming or like doing something. My wife's just like, stop, man, what are you doing? Like, just stop. And
If you stop, you start twitching.
yeah. And for me to really, stop, take a pause, and really drop into my feminine and just like let things be, let things flow. It was really uncomfortable for me, but it actually, like, the realizations that popped up for me, that there's so much beauty in just letting things be. And it hit me like a ton of bricks. Like, I have my kids there, and when I allow things to flow, I'm just focused on the present. It's something I discussed on another podcast, but when you're continuously like doing things, you're always focused on what's to come, or like
what's next.
what's next, what's the next thing. And it's almost like you're living through the term of like lack, like you're always wanting something,
like a state of deprivation.
100%. And so for myself, I was just like, wow, okay, all right, so now I've got a better balance, and there's no pressure for me to do these podcasts or business or work or whatever. I've got a better understanding of my own flow and my own balance and what I need, at the same time as putting myself first, which is a non-negotiable. But I guess just letting things be was a very hard thing for me. So massive lesson in 2020.
And in that, you find what you actually want to do. So like in being still, it's like, oh, actually, like, I'd love to do another podcast. And then, plan it. Like, you have the freedom then to do what you want to do. I like that. I think my lessons this year is to be gentle and patient with yourself, because especially diving deep, it's like, where does it end? The layers continue to go, and then trying to pull yourself back out of that. I know for my own experience, I can get lost in it. And can find myself, in deep and dark thoughts. So I think it's just being gentle and patient with yourself. And another one that I got out of doing Estelle's I Am She course was, even though I have forgiven people of my past, and it's still in my life to this day, it's now learning to accept them for who they are now and not who they were. Because also when I look at myself, I am not who I used to be. So I have to accept myself now too. So I think that was a massive one, is even though you forgive and you never truly forget, but it's just having that acceptance of who they are today. That's a massive one for me.
And I think that definitely would come from being still and allowing things to flow. Because when you're not having the expectation of an outcome and you're allowing yourself just to sit back, then you're giving permission for others to do the same. And what you don't have in yourself, you can't give to others, right? So if you're allowing yourself to just be, you're allowing yourself to flow, you're allowing yourself to be present, then when you have somebody in your life that maybe they got on your nerves or it wasn't always the best relationship, you can take off goggles of who they used to be or who you used to be, and chasing that dream, and you can just sit and accept them for who they are and who they be.
I also wanted to touch on the topic of dimming of your own light to make others comfortable. Because I know, like, I'm guilty. Yeah, we're all guilty of it. So in your own words, just explain what that is, and I guess your own experiences with it.
So for me, dimming your own light to make other people feel comfortable, for me it comes from self-worth. I think that when we've been conditioned to believe that self-worth is of limit, that there is only a certain amount of self-worth to go around, and if I take some, then I'm robbing her from taking some. And I think that then comes with your light. That when you're thinking of a group of people, you don't want to stand up and be loud, because then you're taking away from somebody else. Or, you want to dim yourself down so that, okay, you can have the turn of this limited light. It's your turn now. You go up. So I think it's getting rid of dimming your light when you become confident and understanding of your self-worth, that it's something that's anointed in you at birth from being only you. I think that when you start to realize that there is no limit in terms of light or taking up space, and that when you do step into your full power, you give permission for others to do the same. You're actually being of a service to others. But for me, that came from self-worth.
Yeah, which I think is something, and that was beautifully said. I think that's a journey in itself. Like, for me especially, I'm so guilty of that. Do it every day, probably multiple times a day. But I think that also stems from, being told certain things as a child, and then you carrying those insecurities into adulthood. And then it's the unlearning of all of that, and then having growing that confidence within yourself to know your truth and embody that and just be you. I don't think I've ever truly worn a mask per se, but I definitely do dim my light. I don't show up as anybody else. I guess pick a different side of me to show instead.
Let's let that marinate. I'm letting that marinate with myself, because like you said, we're all guilty of it. And I for me especially, I think it's such a cultural thing for me, I would say, to always quote unquote be humble. Allow that person to go before you. Don't speak up. Don't put your hand up. Just drop into the background quietly and just exist. And I do feel that a lot of the people that I know, there's so many missed opportunities. But then when I want it for them more than they want it for themselves. But it's only because of the work and putting myself first and having the awareness that I'm able to catch that now. But it's just I think that's probably a problem of mine that I need to sit with, is just wanting it for people more than they want it for themselves.
And I guess it's nice to see potential in others and believe in others, but if they don't want it, they don't want it.
You can only control what you can control.
And you can't do the work for them. But it's unfortunate when you see things like that. And I'm sure people see that about all of us too. I'm sure I've missed plenty of opportunities. But then you think about it, like, if there are no mistakes, are they really missed opportunities?
And I'm a firm believer that what will be. Like, it has already been, like, it's already been written. Like, your challenges, everything that you've gone through, it's happened for a reason. And so I think there's beauty in that. So
100%.
Is there anything else you wanted to touch on? Anything at all?
One thing that I would love to bring up for people that have just started on this journey or feel intimidated to start on this journey is to find your truth, find what's true to you, and to not get caught up in spiritual egos. That's something that can be very deflecting for somebody who is trying to seek help. Spiritual spiritual egos is like you have this awareness, but then you still bring your shit into the awareness, and you almost know how to manipulate, or to you kind of go, oh, well, I know this, I'm a bit better than you, let me help you. Or you get an ego because of the spiritual work, whereas you're not just being in your truth and allowing others to be. So I think that can be very off-putting to other people. So to be aware of that on this journey, there is a lot of people that operate.
Oh, it's a thing.
You treat it like it's like another popularity thing, or like
it's
another
high
school.
It's just
it becomes their ego. They're better than because of this, or they know a lot of this, or abuse of power, or whatever that may look like.
It all comes back to intention. So I guess if your intent is a good intention, then expect a good result. But if you're there with obviously a false intent, or something that's not good, then you're not going to get the outcome that you desire. So 100%, no, I agree with that. And you are right. Some of
well,
there's some people out there.
The spiritual journey, like, it's one of vulnerability. So, imagine someone's opening up and being vulnerable, and then they're met with someone who's got a spiritual ego trying to manipulate that, or I don't know, especially if you're out there labeling yourself as a light worker, or a healer, medium, whatever you want to call them. You have some level of responsibility to what you're speaking into these people, because you don't know where these people are on their journey. Some people might be literally on their last leg, like they might be ready on their way out the door. Suicide this year is fucking massive. Like, this work, you have to tread lightly, you have to be careful. Even with people reading tarot cards, for example, I've had a few experiences. If you don't know what you're doing, practice on yourself first. Practice on your close ones and yourself first before you go out there giving, messages
sensitive
or information.
Advice,
very sensitive advice. So that's a massive one.
So just be careful. Don't just assume that because something's labelled as spiritual that it's safe, because it isn't always safe. You have to use your discernment. You have to find your truth, and I think that's important.
Okay. Authenticity, and make sure that person is coming with the right intention. And okay, awesome. Is there anything else you want to drop in there?
I don't know. No, I think we're good.
All good. Okay, where can we find you on socials, websites? I'm going to put all the links in the description, but if you'd like to tell those that might be listening in the car, or
I don't remember mine. I think my Instagram is i.m.she.11. And then we've got intuitivecollective.club.
Yes, we do. And then Mother of Sons is just Mother of Sons _
Okay.
But I also have a website, which is www.motherofsons.com.au.
Okay, fantastic.
I think I need to rebrand.
Hey, when this podcast started, I had no idea. I just started and thought about that later. So,
what's the name? It'll evolve as you do.
What's in it is exactly right. But thank you very, very much, Summer and Estelle, for coming on to this podcast.
Thank you for having us. That was fun.
I know it's not easy, but you guys made it look like a breeze. Like, there's a lot of people that were hyperventilating.
I was like holding my crystal. I was like, well, my palm is sweating.
We've nearly like broken our crystals in our hands, but we look calm. That's fun.
Thank you very much. Really appreciate you. And hey, you guys are always welcome to come back on. We'd love to have you back on the podcast whenever you feel called to. So thank you very much.
Thank you for having us. It was a pleasure.
My pleasure. Yeah. All right. Thank you.
It's a wrap.
Thank you everyone for listening to this episode of the podcast. If you listen this far, man, I really, really, really appreciate you. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, show some love on the Instagram page. And if you feel called to, leave a 5-star rating on the podcast platform that you're listening on. All the links to Estelle and Somer's business pages are in the description of these podcasts, whatever platform that you're on. So yeah, go ahead, do me a favor, go and show some love and support their small businesses. So much appreciated, much love to you. Thank you very much for listening, and I will see you in the next episode. Peace.